back to Sunrise Daily. Well, the breaking news is that an explosion has rocked the Nyanya Park in the Federal Capital Territory. Well, eyewitnesses say that there are casualties, but they're still trying to confirm the figures. And some of the officials are there at the moment, but we should get word from them sooner rather than later. Well, the incident is said to have occurred at about 6:45 a.m. today. It involves some buses in that particular park, but we will get you some more information on this matter as we get them. Well, we'll still have Mr. Akin Orebiyi, who is the Resident Electoral Commissioner in Ondo State, here with us, talking about the by-election in Ondo State. And, well, we have heard some say that the simple majority rule, that with that rule that exists in our laws, that as it is now, that INEC can declare a winner. Is that correct?
Well, we'd not like to join issues with them, but with due respect to them, that view is wrong. That particular view is wrong. The Nigerian democracy, by its nature, by the way it is practiced, demands that you should have in place very firm guidelines to make sure that he who does not deserve to win an election is not allowed to use wrong means to get in there. In other places, you don't even need half of the guidelines or rules and regulations like the Electoral Act to conduct an election. But because of the particular nature of our politicians, the way the very desperate attitude they have in terms of wanting to win an election, you need more laws here to really make sure that people don't use wrong means to get in there. And that was particularly what was invoked on the morning of Sunday, April 6. It's been there since 1999. We've had this guideline that where the margin of votes of the leading candidate does not exceed the total number of registered voters in areas where elections were cancelled or could not hold, you could not return a winner. And they know, they're familiar with this.
Okay, because now you say you have over 28,000 registered voters
exactly,
here. So
yes.
Whatever happens there will certainly affect the results.
Obviously. And this, I need to say, I'm sorry, was also part of the reasons why results could not be announced, or a winner could not be announced during the Anambra election, Anambra 1 on
so
November 16.
some kind of similarities.
Exactly. So it's not a new thing.
You talked about Arubo Ward and
Ward 2.
Ward 2,
yes.
And what happened there. It's just one example. I mean, Arubo definitely did not have the 28,000 voters you're talking about. There are also incidences in other areas. Did you record violence in any area?
That's what I've been seeing. There was violence in one form or the other. For example, if you hijacked ballot materials, it's a form of violence. If there was an attempt to chase people away from the polling units, it was another form of violence. There were attempts like that.
But you did not witness. You didn't witness any attempt, of anybody using arms or, dangerous weapons.
Personally, I didn't witness it, but there were stories of even one or two of ad hoc officials being wounded. I wanted to see the person. I couldn't get to see that somebody was
macheted.
Yes, on the arm.
The reason I ask this, my colleague had earlier asked you if you think that security, the rules of security engagement should be reviewed. If people are getting violent and employing arms at polling stations, do you also believe that we should be taking a holistic review? Because ideally, what the security agencies are there for is to deter. But in cases where their presence alone doesn't deter people from doing what it is that they want to do you think that the game should be upped?
No, I would not support a neutralization of the polling units or the polling arena. I will advise more and more consultation and also more guidelines. First of all, this particular guideline, I expect that it should deter anybody who wants to consider using of violence again. Because you know that if they trail that path again, they're not likely to win.
How do you determine who uses violence?
Oh, no, it's across the political divides. They all are guilty of the same thing. And the unfortunate thing about this is that once they do it, they disappear. These are terrains that we are not quite familiar with. That's one. Two, they disappear. And two, what they also do is that because INEC has been accused of not prosecuting electoral offenders, my chairman has said on several occasions that, first of all, we do not have the wherewithal to do this, given the number. Two, even in instances when we take them to court, before you know it, the politicians will go behind our back to influence the judge. I got some letter from a particular lawyer about 2 months ago in my office. There was one of our own staff in whose custody was found over 1,000 voters' cards just ahead of 2012 election. We took him to court. Eventually, one way or the other, he was freed. And then I got a letter that we should reinstate him as a member of staff. Till then, we've ignored that because we knew we didn't get the right judgment. That's why we keep saying that it's a collective thing. Even if INEC embarks on trying electoral offenders, will the court also do their bit? With the other components of the country also rise up in support of this? It's an assignment, I believe, that all of us still need to come together and find solution. But I won't support militarizing the polling units. What I feel that can still be done, because if you look at the trend, I would say largely the use of violence is decreasing, although gradually, although slowly. It's not as high as it was in 1999 or 2003 or even 2011 with the by-elections and governorship elections we've had in the past 2-3 years. It's going down, no doubt. But what's making it go down? Two things. First of all, more and more consultations. More and more consultations with the political parties. Two, the very firm, strict guidelines imposed by INEC. Anywhere you experience incidents of violence, no, you cancel this, and then you look at it. If eventually it does not measure up, then you cannot declare.
You know, that's part of the clause or part of the guideline that also needs to be maybe looked at, perhaps with a microscope, because they know this guideline and they know that, look, if there's violence here,
it'll be cancelled.
It will be cancelled. And so someone from the opposing camp could say, let's go foment trouble here. After all, they won't know it's us. And so if we weaken him in his own area, we'll win. So again, unfortunately, it's rain is ugly here. You said it's decreasing. We'll see how bad it does this. But if it happened now, it means that, I mean, politicians are smart. They could watch some of these things, and then this bandwagon effect, they could pick this up and play it out in a general elections. How do we forestall this kind of situation?
Well, we can only take each case on its own merit. The Esidwe-Ilaje Federal Constituency election, if you look at it very well, because of the violence meted out on other election officials, a result could not be declared. And as such, all of them are also suffering the consequences. I know how many calls I've received from all the parties, say even those who are not even likely to win, say we should have just declared so that they don't go back to the field. It costs them money as well. It costs us money. We feel pain that we have to go back there, muster another series of efforts, money and everything. We don't like it, we don't enjoy it. But if that is the only way Nigerians will learn how to do things properly, we don't mind. And I think it pains them that they couldn't get a winner outrightly. And I expect that they will come back. I expect that the re-election, the supplementary election will be a lot better. There will be less violence. I've called a meeting with the stakeholders, we call them stakeholder political parties, tomorrow in my office in Akure. We're going to meet, we're going to diagnose precisely everything that went wrong. And where the blame really should be put. And then the warnings again, and that the regulation. Look, if INEC is not allowed to conduct an election in a place, if we are pushed to the wall, the implication is that we may not go there and risk our lives.
But there's an exception. I don't think this is a blanket rule in terms of if it applies in all cases. For instance, correct me if I'm wrong, if they have about 500 registered voters in that area, will the same law apply? Because if 500 people vote, even if you give it to the losing party, it won't substantially affect the results, would it? Will the same law apply?
It will not, because the same law will apply, but in that case, we'll have to declare a winner immediately, since the number of registered voters who could not vote is less than that. Yeah, okay, that means we are seeing a decrease in the incidence of violence. It's a gradual thing. The Nigerian political terrain is very...
But again, is INEC helpless? Because sometimes we see rules of engagement in elections are being flouted, all in your face, and it seems to us that INEC is helpless. Now you just give us a scenario how you went to court, and some other times some people have actually started even putting up billboards and posters, campaigning before the real campaign should start. And INEC seem helpless on this.
If you've been following the news, just last week the chairman, Professor Jiga, said those who flout the rules, particularly about campaigning before campaign is allowed to start will be prosecuted. There are steps being taken in that direction.
It looks like politicians like it when you say, well, we'll go to court because, well, does that stop them from going to the
Court
election
is your
proper?
Well, again, if they go to court and maybe they get judgment in court, in that case, we are helpless. And that's why we keep saying that we need the support of other constituents of the...
and if you appeal, they'll say, you're an interested party. Why are you
appealing? We can appeal. to be sure, we can appeal, we can go on. But again, that may be distracting from precisely a major affair. That's why we need the civil society organizations, we need the media, we need practically everybody coming out and saying politicians should stop this. They shouldn't hold the country to ransom.
So do you also see, because right now you're talking about, politicians being desperate, and you seem to be laying the blame squarely at their feet. The question will be, what do you see changing? Because people will say that politicians will continue to be desperate. What is INEC going to do, like the bird who, if the hunter has learned to shoot without missing, must learn to fly without perching? What's INEC going to do about that?
Let me say this. INEC is not claiming that it is perfect. We inherited a burden over the years, which we are trying to clean off and also trying to establish the new, led by our chairman, Professor Jiga. And you agree with me that in the past 3-4 years, there have been some changes to the extent that some measure of trust, some measure of confidence is now being reposed in INEC. Some of the politicians, to be fair to them, who resort to wrong means, do this simply because they feel INEC has been biased in the past, or INEC has not been fair, or has not played the game by the rules. But now that they are seeing an INEC that is creating a level playing field for all participants, they are beginning to trust us more. And they're also beginning to trust the electoral process itself, and they want to see how they can take advantage of the electoral process without doing wrong things. That's why I said there's been a gradual decrease over the years in the use of violence. And I think personally, I'm very optimistic that over the years, this will continue to improve. But things have been so terrible in the past that you cannot now expect change overnight. It will take some time.
So would you also say that you see a situation where INEC continues to hold elections piecemeal? Does it help?
No, it doesn't. It's too expensive. And then it does not really give a proper picture of what our assignment should be doing. I mean, how do you spread elections across several wards or several constituencies, several states? No, it's too expensive. We can't do that. We cannot afford to do that. In fact, the country cannot even finance it. Pardon me?
Not even on a state-by-state basis?
No, it's too expensive. It's too much. It's too much.
What do we? When will this new date for the by-election be fixed?
Tomorrow, there's a meeting of the security agencies. First of all, in the morning at 10, and after that, a meeting with the political parties. At the end of the 2 meetings, we should have a date. This is part of what INEC is doing now, bringing politicians together. Let's talk. Even to arrive at April 5, the by-election date, we had 3 meetings with them before we could agree. We don't want to keep on imposing. We want to carry them along to see that this is how things could be done in a very beautiful, very orderly, very peaceful manner. I mean, to that extent, yes, we got their cooperation. We also got their own input in the date. We're also going to do a similar thing tomorrow. But we'll expect that they too will look at where they had not done very well.
How would you assess the relationship between political parties when you hold these meetings?
Well, shall I say, comme ci, comme ça, as they say in French. At times it could be hot, and at times, but usually we end up very well. They bring it hot, but we know how to handle them. When they bring it hot and then you respond. By the time you look, facts must speak for facts. That's one. 2, your integrity is also at work here. When they know that you are not really supporting any particular party at the expense of another, and that you really are keen on establishing and conducting an election which is fair to all, you realize that they're human beings. They begin to listen. I've spent 3.5 years with them now. Initially, it was a battlefield, but now we talk at length, all of them, We invite them, we chat together. If they have issues, they have my number anytime in the evening, in the morning, anytime they call me, and we discuss. And they realize that we are attending to their if they are genuine problems. So to that extent, I would say that we've, till date, had a very cordial relationship with political parties, especially in Ondo State. But then, you can never know with them, because I think the average politician's middle name is mischief. Somewhere, they always want to employ that to make sure they live up to their name.
How would you also rate the funding of, INEC officers? So far, so good. Has it improved, or are you still at the mercy of the same political class, which you criticize?
No, not at all. The funding has considerably improved under Professor Jiga, because consideration for our facilities, for developing them, for improving, for repairs, virtually hardly any quarter that something is not given out for you to improve your facilities. Come to our INEC offices. You'll be surprised at the conditions there. I always say this, that it's only a greedy person who will not be satisfied with what INEC is putting in place, whether in terms of facilities or his remuneration. And that should be enough as part of our own sacrifice or contribution to the development of the country.
All right. At least we expect that when this date is fixed, that these elections will eventually just hold and a winner declared, since you're carrying politicians along in your several meetings. All right, then Mr. Akin Orebiyi is the Resident Electoral Commissioner in Ondo State. We've been talking about the Ondo by-election. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, then we'll return in just a moment. Please join us again.